are like, what is wrong with that dude?
Welcome to Aperture and Shutter Speed. It's our last episode with Ansel for I guess it's like 3 weeks. It's not really, right? You're going to be back a little bit?
Yeah, I'll be back. If you want me back.
Oh, yeah. We'll never leave.
Would you like me back?
Never leave.
I'll come back for you.
You're listening to Aperture and Shutter Speed on Lone Star Internet Radio, Montgomery County's film and photography show, radio show, really. You can catch us up on SoundCloud and YouTube for all of our archives, especially irlonestar.com, Facebook, Aperture and Shutter Speed. Welcome to the final episode before the final episode of Ansel. This is a warm-up show for his actual final episode. Ansel's leaving us. He found a better gig in Chicago.
A better radio show.
You know what's funny is I bet he's serious. I bet he's gonna get up there and meet some really cool guys, and they're gonna have a photography radio show, and we're gonna have to talk trash over the internet to each other. What do you think?
Sounds good.
But today's episode, I'm really excited about today's episode. And if you're listening in and you feel like you want to call in and butt in, 936-647-3776. And today's episode is dedicated to film photography, darkroom photography, all that awesome stuff, which Ansel, I would say, is probably the most professional out of this group, maybe, because I know Tom, trmorephotos.com over here, knows a little bit about it because that's what he grew up with, right?
About 5 years in it.
About 5 years. Yeah. And then, Ansel's the only person recently doing it. When's the last time you touched a darkroom?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, there you go.
Time.
So
it's all the same principle.
So today's show is Ansel's, and so I'm going to stop talking. I'm just wanted to give an intro, and you're listening to Aperture and Shutter Speed. So he has a list of things. He's like, these guys got to know this before it's too late. So I'm ready, Ansel. Start with me. What are we going to start with?
Well, I kind of wanted to start off with the question is why shoot film?
Okay, that's a very good question.
Why would you shoot film?
Well, because we were just talking about this while you were in the restroom. Oh. So if you watch this on YouTube, there's two cameras in front of you, and one is a camera from the late 70s, early 80s. It's a Pentax, and film was really the only option at that time. That was the only option to do photography.
Right.
And then the other camera is a Canon, I think it's an EOS something 2.
Elan.
Something 2.
Elan 2.
Yeah, Elan 2. And basically that was right there at the cusp of digital photography coming in. Like I remember when we got that camera, and then I got a Sony, I forgot what it was, but it used floppy disks. It used a floppy disk, as its film, because it would be digital, and it was awful, but it was awesome at the same time because you could just take unlimited photos, and that means you could take naughty photos and get away with it. And but basically, what was funny about it is why use film? Mm-hmm. And I go, well, why would I use film with that EOS if I can just get an EOS digital?
Right.
But the Pentax definitely has that nostalgic, and then it has that feel to it, and also the dark room afterwards. Mm. So that I would see myself being more interested in doing it if I had an older camera, probably in the 80s or before.
So if your Pentax worked, you could
there
probably
you
see
go.
picking
Thanks
up a
for
couple
rubbing that
rolls.
in. Yeah.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding you.
So, a few things that I was thinking about. I have two parts to this why shoot film.
Okay.
I have for beginners for someone who has never really picked up a camera before, doesn't really know anything about photography, who wants to learn about photography, and what are some good reasons to shoot film. So, to start this off, you can understand and learn the mechanics of photography with consequence.
Yes.
Which, in my opinion, creates a better learning process. So,
what's stricter? It's like you're getting beat every time.
Exactly. I mean, so you're going to learn about Aperture, what it does. You're going to learn about what the shutter speed does. For a lot of the older cameras that are manual only, obviously you're not going to have any auto modes to put it on. So you're going to learn about these things better with consequence, as far as if you don't do it right, your photos aren't going to turn out. And you wasted all that time screwing your film up,
Well, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is when I was learning about like the standards, like you said, aperture and shutter speed, and then learning about focal points and all that kind of stuff. What was nice about the digital realm is like when I pull up the photos on Photoshop or whatever you're using, it lets you know what options you used. Mm-hmm. So I kind of understand, like, oh, 1/1000 is different from 1/100. What happens when I do both? Like, oh, it's not as well lit and whatnot. But so when you're doing film, how do you know? Because when you print out the photos, how the heck do you know?
Well, what my professor told me when I first took my film class, he gave us these sheets to write down. Basically,
So after every photo, you write it down.
and I didn't do it a lot, and maybe I should have. I think I got marked down quite a bit because it's kind of like, you think, well, why write it down after every single one? And what if I'm taking a few? But really, it is important.
Yeah.
It's important to
That's
do.
cool.
On my last backpacking trip, I recorded everything to like the conditions of like the daylight out and things like that. And I think it's really important so you can go back and you can see these notes that you took, and you know what settings you were shooting at, you know what to do next time.
Well, I always liked that when I read photography magazines that they would include that in the photo, the spread. It's like they give you the entire lineup of what he shot right there, like all the way down to, well, they never did like batteries. But I mean, they did, the lens and what quality of the lens, and then what he actually shot it at in the lens. So if it was a telephoto zoom, he'd be like, he shot it at this like at this range, and stuff like that. I think that's extremely important.
It is, and I mean, obviously, it's easier to do it in digital like that. But I mean, and it kind of going down the list, it kind of goes with the slowing down. Film makes you slow down. You're not just shooting. You don't have an unlimited or up until a 16 gig card can fill. You have 24, 36, or less.
Can you imagine doing like a wedding at like a portrait? I would get pissed.
Have you ever done a wedding in film, Tom?
No.
You should do it. Just
I
for
wouldn't
once.
do it. Mm-mm.
That'd be too much.
If you mess up, boy, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so with your little mentality of the punishment, let me ask you, say you're taking a picture of a subject, how many pictures do you allow yourself to take in film?
I usually I try and take at least 2 myself at the same settings. So if I'm pretty sure I meter, I have a spot meter, so I can get pretty accurate metering done. I usually do at least 2 at the same setting. So if something goes wrong in the developing process, if you don't roll the film onto the reel correctly, it can kink. And then it can show those kinks on your film when you develop it, and your picture is ruined if you were just going for a clean, neat look, And so I usually take at least 2, because that's happened before where I'm like, oh, one of them screwed up, but the other one didn't. So I take 2. Sometimes I bracket, which is either going like 1 or 2 stops down, 1 or 2 stops up, and just to kind of see what different effect I get.
Because I do that.
Yeah. So
in digital, I do that just because I just want to see, because especially with people's skin tones, you always get a better result either going up or down. Yeah. So
that's why I like to do it. And I think film really helps you understand that and learn that in a better way, because you're being really disciplined with figuring out what depth of field is and figuring out exposure. Especially if you don't have a light meter. I mean, you will learn that really quickly, going around without a light meter after your first roll, and you look and you see, oh man, these are all overexposed, or these are all underexposed. And if you write those down and see what your settings were, the next time you're out and it's sunny, you can mess with your settings in a different way to try and learn light without a light meter. So I think it's really important for beginners in that aspect. Let me see one. Cheap. It's really cheap to get into good cameras, good film cameras now. And most of the film, say you go and you buy a $50, film SLR on eBay from KEH or wherever you go, and you're not really sure about developing yourself, that's fine. Go to Walgreens and buy some color film from Walgreens. If you want to start shooting film and you want to kind of get in the hang of it, which is probably $3, and then probably an extra.
I'm gonna start looking this stuff up while you talk.
Probably an extra $4 to $6 at the most to get them developed and printed for you. So it's a really cheap way to get into it right now. Whereas if you're going to get into a digital SLR, I don't think there's really too much out there for less than $300, and that's for body only, probably. I mean, would you agree, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that would yield good enough results that would allow you to shoot without any hassle. I mean, I know I have an old camera that my parents gave me that on the market right now is less than $100, but you know, I mean, giving that to a beginner would be even difficult because it's just a slow camera to use, and it can get really frustrating. So
I think since I've been shooting in digital now, that I could go back to a film camera and I could choose the right settings in a lot of environments and come out with really good results, because I've had the digital review on the back of the screen immediately, so I can translate that into a film camera and just, I think I can knock it out of the park without a meter.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you know, this is all kind of, you know, whether or not you're interested in it, you know, whether or not people are interested, because you can absolutely, you know, go and learn on digital. It's certainly easier and quicker as far as, you know, because you get to review it right away. You don't have to wait, you know, however long to get your film developed and then to get prints of it or to scan it. You don't have to have a scanner. So it is easier in that way, you know, but I definitely think that, you know, if people are interested in film, it's, you know, it's so cheap right now to do. And it's just, you know, one of my things at the very bottom of my why shoot film list is because it connects you with a photographic process that's been around for over 100 years, you know. So you really, I think, you know, for me at least, you know, it's really something hands-on that I'm doing that people have been doing for a very long time, you know, and films that are coming out now, because they still are making films and they're still updating films. And so films that are coming out now are fantastic. You know, they have one of them that I just bought 5 rolls of is Kodak Ektar, and it's a color film. It's a color negative film, and it's just amazing. It's just a beautiful film. It has a huge dynamic range, and it's just amazing. And, you know, and I think this just came out less than, you know, maybe 5 to 10 years ago. I don't think it came out 10 years ago, but I think it came out in the last 5 years. So, you know, that's another thing. They've just been doing this so long that the films are coming out with now even are just, you know, outstanding.
As long as you have your shutter speed and your f-stop and your ISO, you're just going to... How brilliant is it compared to a DSLR camera in quality? I mean, is it really good? I mean, it's superior? Is it...
Well, I think for me, you know, the 5 rolls, because I've shot 5 rolls of the Ektar before, and before that I shot 5 rolls of Kodak Portra, which I had heard just raving reviews about. People loved them, and people said, you need to shoot this film, blah, 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 blah. I shot 5 rolls of it on a road trip, so I took pictures of people, I took pictures of kind of landscapey stuff, you know, just out and about. I didn't really like it. I thought, you know, the skin tones and the people were great, but everything else I was taking of buildings, of landscape type stuff, it didn't look anything like I couldn't get out of my digital. So the Kodak Portra for me is out. But the Ektar, I decided to give that a shot. And I mean, just the colors you get from it, they're just really, I mean, they're not too saturated, but they're just the right amount of saturation. I was worried a little bit about, because I didn't have a meter when I was shooting it one day. When I was in Austin, I didn't have a meter with me, and I had been at the bar for a little while, and so I wasn't really thinking straight, and so I was worried maybe I'm not getting, you know, setting the settings all right. And I set the settings, as far as I remember, completely different than I was before shooting in the broad daylight. And after I got them back, there was not that much difference. No highlights were really clipped. I mean, good shadow detail. And that's the thing, you can take a picture of, you know, kind of landscapey stuff where there's a good amount of shadows and a lot of highlights, and they're all within viewable range, and it's just a really nice film, and there's not a lot of post-processing that you need, at least that I found, other than maybe sharpening a bit, color adjustment, contrast adjustment. I didn't touch any of that. Once I got them and scanned them, it was good.
It works.
Yeah.
I just think you have a tremendous advantage of working in a darkroom than with a digital. I think we're headed toward a break. Dick's giving us a signal. So we are going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. You are listening to Aperture and Shutter Speed. I'm Tom Moore, TR Moore Photos.
And I'm Dick.
I'm Ansel.
We'll be back.
Hello, this is Dennis Nelson, inviting you to come with me through the doorway of imagination and into the theater of the mind. The Players Theater Company Old Time Radio Hour presents a play every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on Lone Star Internet Radio. Be it drama or comedy, thriller or love story, every exciting episode is carefully chosen straight from the golden age of radio and performed live by talented actors, musicians, and sound effects crew. Every sound you hear will be 100% live and homemade. Anything can happen. So join us, please, every Saturday night at 7 p.m. for the Players Theater Company Old Time Radio Hour, right here on Lone Star Internet Radio.
You're listening to Lone Star Internet Radio. Now for your daily weather report. Today is Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. Today's weather forecast. There's a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly after 1 p.m. Mostly sunny with a high near 93. Later on tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 71.
This weather forecast is brought to you by Donna Wick Public Relations. You've seen the billboards. That's right, Wicked Publicity. Contact them today at 832-326-1965 and visit them at wickedpublicity.com.
And Shutter Speed, the farewell before the farewell of Ansel Arnold Photography. Talking about film photography here on Aperture and Shutter Speed. We're here every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Montgomery County's film and photography show. We also do video film, and today's focus is photography film, because it's not I wouldn't even say it's a dying art. It died, but it's not extinct, and it's still something that's very appreciated by pretty much anyone. I mean, it's unless you have to educate people. You really do. You have to let them know, like, oh, this is a film. This is a film photo, not a digital photo. And I think digital photography, that's one of the big questions. I remember when it first came out, is it ever going to achieve what you can do with film? And then I think it passed that probably about 3 years ago, when the 5D came out, because it was like one of the first full format cameras. But no one really knows the difference. Like, no one really cares. Photoshop's still around. You can scan images in. So it doesn't really matter.
There you go.
So I remember, because that's actually what I did. So I remember when I was in high school, we were graded on both film and digital. So I was one of the first people, fortunately enough, because I really like photography, and I bought a digital camera. I bought a 10D, and that was one of the first Canon digital cameras that were DSLRs. And I remember when I brought it to class, my teacher was really interested in it. And she was like, that's really neat. And I go, well, can I use these on our project? She's like, well, my curriculum still requires you to do darkroom stuff. And I totally lied that I had a darkroom at home, because what I was fortunate enough to have a scanner that scanned film. And I had a printer, because I went all out. I got, because I wanted to take photos and print them and stuff like that. Sure. So I totally told her I had a darkroom at home. And when she would say, like, hey, you could take 24 film, bring the film here, like, so I know, and then you can develop yourself at home. And I was like, oh, okay. Never learned anything about darkroom. I just got my film out and I just put it. I got it developed. I think at I got it cleaned or whatever. You have to clean the film first.
Yeah.
Got it cleaned somewhere at like Walgreens and took it home. I scanned it in. I printed them out. And I'm like, what do you think?
It's a proof sheet.
Yeah. So that was really funny because I'd never told anybody about that because I was like, and because she wasn't looking for the full prints because I had digital, so I would submit it in digital format for my final grade, but she still wanted me to still take like you had themes. Go take angles, so I would take 10 pictures of angles on my digital and 10 pictures in film, and then I would just yeah, it's really funny.
You fooled her.
Well, I'm a liar
Yeah.
and cheater and all that good stuff. But go back. We're back with Ansel. Talking about our darkroom days.
Yeah. So I don't know where I was, but
Here we go.
I think I was cheap and a good way to connect with the history of photography. I mean, it really is.
Well, what's funny to me, that's how I learned about the history was Ansel Adams, about how he did like the rule of thirds, and he actually started developing the depth of field, and how he kind of changed the game when he would do his nature photography, creating these huge, beautiful shots. By using, I already forgot what it was, but he like pioneered the new system of how to do range finding. Basically, he was one of the first to use the medium format and like to basically capture all those things in one picture, and it made it real famous because also no one's really seen Yosemite and all that kind of stuff over there. And,
and especially back then, back then it's a completely different. Back then it was completely different, obviously, because we don't know about that.
Because Tom likes to call them the wow factor of the photos.
That's right.
And those were definitely the wow days.
Right.
And I'll never forget when back in the late 80s, early 90s, everyone had the point and shoots of film cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And film was expensive. It was like $5 a roll.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we go on family vacations, you go and blow $100 on film for the whole vacation, just in case, because my dad liked photography. So I just remember him buying so much film, and I was like, man, it's $5 a piece. And he's like, well, we're going to take a lot of photos. And we did. And then we had the point and shoot, though. So it was most standard photos. It wasn't like I'm going to take this nature shot of the waterfall while being at sunlight. It'd be more of like, let's just get together. Yeah. And then that was it. So there really wasn't a lot of technical input into it. It was just more of whatever the camera automatically does, just take the photo. But you're right. It does teach you to appreciate it and the cheap factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not really. I'm on B&H Photo, and I'm not spending $6,000 for a Leica. I'm not doing that.
We'll go that later, but yeah, B&H is good for buying some things and not so much.
Well, I call it the Best Buy of photography. It's it's going to be pretty much the MSRP of everything. Yeah, and that's what you're getting.
I mean, you can. There's a lot of different options in buying. I think finding someone,
we can go to Craigslist,
something like that, is definitely good. But buying from B&H, I mean that way that it's like in pristine mint condition. Yeah. But like you said, you're paying $6,000 for a film camera that came out 20 years ago. I don't know who wants to do that, but you can buy me one too if you'd like.
Yeah. How much are the digital ones? That's what I want to know.
Oh man, a digital Leica. I think the M9s are floating around like $4,000 to $5,000 for just the body, and the new Leica M240 is, I want to say like $6,000 to $8,000, just for the body. And the lenses that are coming out, like the brand new I think they just came out with a new 50 millimeter lens. Now they have a bunch of 50 millimeter lenses,
but this is it.
But this is the newest one. Yeah. It's the freshly coated, right out of the German lady's hands that polished it herself with her blouse at the German Lights factory.
I thought it was long blonde hair she polished it with.
Yeah, that's what she polished it with, and that baby will cost you like $5,000 for a lens. They have a f.95 lens.
What?
That is $10,000. $10,000 for the lens.
It's not bad.
No, but when you look at Voigtlander, which is like they make M mount lenses, they have one for like $1,000 or $2,000.
Yeah.
So.
But That's serious. That's some serious photography right there.
I don't know who buys it.
I don't know anybody that does that.
Go to SteveHuffPhoto.com. He buys all that stuff, and he says it's the best out there because he spent $15,000 on his photo kit.
Is not bad. Like, that's kind of cool. I wouldn't mind shooting with it just to see what you can achieve with .93. Yeah. But then I mean that's actually really cool. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, I mean you can buy them. They have a bunch for the Micro Four Thirds setup. Voigtlander makes them, and they have f9 5 lenses, and they seem pretty. I mean, obviously you get to shoot in like really low light, which is nice.
That's cool.
But
what is the depth of field going to be like with that lens?
Well, in the Micro Four Thirds, the depth of field is going to be a lot larger than on a 35 millimeter, or even like a 20D, because 20Ds are 1.6 crop, and Micro Four Thirds is 2 times crop. So you're going to get a lot less depth of field, but or a lot more depth of field. Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, if you
I'm trying to snoop on people.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, then you can get a micro. Actually, the guy I was telling you about, who I think you guys should bring on the show, whenever you want. He has one of those Micro Four Thirds Olympus cameras, and I was messing around with it, and that thing is cool. The Olympus OMD EM1, that is a cool camera. Very cool.
It's a film camera?
No, it's a digital camera. I mean, it's probably as big as this. It's a Micro Four Thirds, but that thing is it's very nice.
What's the advantage of it?
Well, it's smaller. It has full weather sealing. If you go on YouTube and search that camera and search weather sealing, people have like put it in their showers. I mean, the camera, the lens.
OMD EM1?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll put it in their shower. Leave it in their shower, hot water running for 10 minutes. Works fine.
Wow.
And, it's a Micro Four Thirds sensor, so it's smaller, but it's a pro model. It has like some crazy kind of image stabilization where I've heard you can shoot up to like 1/4 of a second with a clear stabilized image.
And holding it?
Oh, yeah.
You can hold it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So it's just, it's just one of those cool new things they're coming out with.
And the cost of that, do you know?
It's about $1,200, I think. Maybe like $15 with the kit lens. But
that's a really good price.
Does it really have 800 focus points?
Yeah. The autofocus too. When I was playing with it. The autofocus, like I was saying, on mirrorless cameras is really slow. This thing was fast.
That's nuts.
I was surprised at how fast that autofocus
sure it's just $1,200?
It is.
It's for a body only.
$1,400 on their website. But you can get it from a street dealer.
Yeah.
What are the lenses?
They're all Olympus lenses, but you can buy adapters for a bunch of them. The dude had like an old film lens on there with just an adapter to Micro Four Thirds. Bam. It's on there.
81 area multiple focus point. That's crazy.
It is really. It was a nice camera. I would, if I had the money, I would buy a lot of stuff.
Let's go back to the show.
All right.
We're looking at stuff now. We're window shopping.
So I mean, those are a few reasons to shoot film as a beginner. One of the things is just fun. It's fun to, at least in my opinion, to go out, shoot film, and to either develop your pictures yourself. I mean, that's just a really rewarding process, in my opinion, is to develop your film yourself and look at what you did. I mean, you processed it yourself, you shot it yourself, and when they come out nice, and you print that out, and you can say, I did all that myself. It's just a really nice feeling, but it's fun most of all. And I think it has to be.
And you can have that 8x10 on your wall as soon as it dries, instead of having to run off. And of course, you can do it if you have a printer too. But I really enjoyed watching the image when you put it in your developer, and it starts coming up, and it goes from a white just piece of paper, and then the image starts coming up, and then you put it in the acid to stop it and then fix. And it's It's like magic. It really is.
Yeah, it's really...
When it first came out, people must have really been like, "What is that? Is there somebody on that page? How did they get on the page?" You know?
No wonder the Amish think it's all crazy.
Yeah, it's
voodoo or
stealing your soul,
something like that.
But
yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's just one of the things. It's just fun. It's fun to do. You know, even if you do it on the side, you shoot 1 or 2 rolls every couple months. It's fun.
I found it very relaxing.
And
when
film
I was in the dark room.
Yeah. And it's put on some music.
You're in your own world.
And you are.
Nobody goes in there because you can't go in because the light's on, and nobody can go because the room's gonna blow up.
No. And film looks great.
Yeah.
I
love it.
That's my last one for beginners. So
now we're gonna get into some heavy stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're taking a break, right?
That's what we.
I was waiting for you to.
We're waiting for you.
Well, you guys are big
Turn up the
boys.
music.
You guys are big boys. No, so when we come back, what we're gonna talk about? Just to make sure.
More why shoot film, and then we're gonna be talking about what do you need for film photography? What are the things you need?
Talk about the chemicals. You're gonna talk about chemicals.
Yeah, some chemicals, some other stuff.
Some other stuff.
So stay tuned.
Aperture and shutter speed. We'll be right back here on Lone Star Internet Radio.
Get you a Bezier 23C.
Do you ever wonder what's going on in the business community? Are you looking for ways to get plugged in? Cassandra Roshan here, Director of Membership Development with the Greater Conroe, Lake Conroe Area Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to invite you to tune in to Chamber Chat. Tune in the first Tuesday of every month at 11 a.m. so you will be in the know for all Chamber happenings for the month. Each month, the Chamber offers 2 free lunch and learn sessions, a networking breakfast, business after hours, membership luncheon, as well as many other special events throughout the year. I will give you a rundown of all programs and events for the month, as well as interview our speakers and hosts of these events. So grab a cup of coffee and tune in to Chamber Chat the first Tuesday of every month at 11 a.m. Chat with you then.
Hi, I'm Joyce with the Corner Pub in downtown Conroe. We're located at the corner of Simonton and North Main, just across the street from the courthouse. The week starts off Monday with open mic hosted by Alan, and Tuesday nights open mic hosted by Jeremy Bankhead. And on Thursday evening, McFarland Jams. There's nightly drink specials available every night, all night. And don't forget, live entertainment every weekend. To see a full list of events, visit our website at thecornerpubinconroe.com. So come join us at the Corner Pub, where the deli is open late.
Imagine your baby has just been born and doctors decide to transport him to a hospital unit 90 miles away. Your world is upside down and now you have to find a hotel. We can help. Please visit cadenshope.org to learn more. Cadence Hope, providing hope in the midst of trial.
Hi, I'm Joyce with the Corner Pub in downtown Conroe. We're located at the corner of Simonton and North Main, just across the street from the courthouse. The week starts off Monday with open mic hosted by Alan, and Tuesday nights open mic hosted by Jeremy Bankhead. And on Thursday evening, McFarland Jams. There's nightly drink specials available every night, all night. And don't forget, live entertainment every weekend. To see a full list of events, visit our website at thecornerpubinconroe.com. So come join us at the Corner Pub, where the deli is open late.
You're listening to Lone Star Internet Radio. Now for your daily weather report. Today is Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. Today's weather forecast. There's a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly after 1 p.m. Mostly sunny with a high near 93. Later on tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 71.
This weather forecast is brought to you by Donna Wick Public Relations. You've seen the billboards. That's right, Wicked Publicity. Contact them today at 832-326-1965 and visit them at wickedpublicity.com.
Look around, choose your own ground.
You're listening to Aperture and Shutter Speed. I'm Tom Moore, trmorephotos.com. I'm here with Dick Schissler and Ansel Arnold, who is going to be going to Chicago to study film and photography.
Yep.
Which is exciting. And we were just talking about 8x10 and just blowing up to massive sizes and pinpoint clarity.
Well, that is one of the advantages of digital, I think.
Which is what?
Is doing billboards.
Yeah, but I mean...
It's a lot easier to do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can do billboards easier in digital, but I'm sure those images are... Yeah. And I'm sure those images are pretty pixelated, though, once you get up close to them.
Of course they are.
I mean,
Well, it depends on what camera you're using.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those cameras have like 30 megapixels.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I don't know if the people Spearmint Rhino are going to be shooting with, medium format to post a billboard, but they might be. Who knows? Yeah. That's a good job that you can check out, Dick. Doing billboards for clubs. For lady clubs.
Yeah, I know. I got it. I want to make a note. This is the quietest Tom has ever been on Aperture and Shutter Speed.
I'm letting...
he's doing it right.
Have the show, baby.
He disobeyed last week, and now I'm just kidding. He disobeyed last week. I love it, but no, this is okay. So we're getting back to film photography, and most people who are just now tuning in, we're hanging out here. This is Aperture and Shutter Speed. We're here every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And Ansel is a fine art photographer who shoots film. And that's really his niche or his thing. That's the way he likes to shoot photography, which we always encourage everybody. If you just find what you'd like to do, it could be a point and shoot, it could be an iPhone, it could be a $10,000 or whatever. If you like shooting with it, continue doing what you're doing because we like to see your photos.
Right, and that's really important too. Especially for people, beginning or people intermediate. Or even, I notice it all the time myself. I get way too caught up in gear. If you enjoy shooting something, just go shoot it. It doesn't matter what it is. It could take, not greatest image quality images, but there's so many famous photos out there that have been taken with, junk. So it's not an issue about your gear.
Right place at the right time.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So my next part that I wanted to go into is we went over why you should shoot film as a beginner. Basically, understanding the mechanics, learning that easier with consequence, so you don't make those same mistakes the next time. It's cheap, it's fun, yada yada, and those all still apply to the intermediates. But assuming you know what the aperture settings do and the shutter speed settings and ISO and depth of field, assuming you know all of that and you can read your own light and all that, that's great. Why should you shoot film if you know all that? And here's some ideas that I wrote down. It allows you to focus on your technique and your composition by becoming disciplined because your results aren't instant. So what I mean by this is, I think a lot of people suffer, myself at least included, and what kind of style that I'm doing and what kind of photography that I'm shooting and just kind of, there's a certain things that really, make you noticeable as a photographer, as an art, in any kind of art. And I think a lot of people struggle with it for a long time, finding out what that is about them. Or, you can take a lot of pictures, say you take 100 pictures, but you only find one that's, any good or not. And I think shooting film allows you to focus on you rather than just snapping a ton of photos. I think it helps you to identify a picture better because you're limited to a certain amount of frames per roll, until, maybe you run out, you don't have an extra, roll of film with you or something like that. And so instead of taking 100 pictures, you take 5. And maybe because you took it slower, you approach a situation different because you're not just firing away. Maybe 3 out of those 5 are good. rather than 1 out of 20 or, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it just helps you become disciplined in that way because you're slowing down. You're taking it into account that you're spending money each time you click the shutter. And, and I think that really helps with,
Also the time it takes to develop if you're developing it yourself. I mean, that's your time on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that, in my opinion, it's really helped me.
So you're saying you're like the hierarchy. You're royalty when it comes to photography, and we're the peasants because we. No, I can smell it.
Yeah.
I can just smell the nose up in the air.
There you go.
Going, these fools use digital photography.
No.
So you didn't put on deodorant again today, Dick?
What? I don't stink.
No, not at all.
That was a joke.
You can. I know, but I mean, it brings up a good point as far as people thinking. I don't want anyone to think that you can't do that with digital because you absolutely can. There's a lot of ways to become disciplined in digital photography. Without chimping and doing things like that, you just really have to train yourself, and it takes discipline. And I think film is easier to discipline yourself with. Because there's no way to look at your photos. There's no way to remember what you were shooting at other than writing it down, And I mean, it's all the same end result, but I think film, obviously, it forces you to think about things and, it forces you to have to do some extra work to get the same result.
Well, what's funny, and like we were talking about, like I mentioned a little bit, it's about being educated about it today. Because in today's world, digital is easier, and digital really is the future. Because that's the only way. Like Kodak's out of business, and most camera sites, Leica, feel like they can charge $6,000 for a film camera, but no one else is going to do that. Like Canon, and Nikon, who are pretty much the biggest players, like kind of like McDonald's, like they're the biggest fast food players. They're going to keep producing better digital cameras. They're not going to do any more film cameras, really. And what to me, since I'm educated on the film process, if somebody gave me a film shot, I'd understand the process that went into it, and I would appreciate it more. Kind of like if someone writes you a handwritten letter instead of a typed letter. Sure. Even if somebody gives you a typewriter letter, I'd be like, oh, it's a lot better than a computer. For some reason, it's better than a computer. I mean, the same message is still being conveyed, but I appreciate it more. And especially with film, because I know when I go to art galleries and I look at the prints, it's always cool to see if they shot it with the film camera or they shot it with the digital camera, and then also what they printed on, and especially if they do the darkroom stuff, because some art galleries will let you know everything they use,
right?
And it's really cool just to see how much time they put into it,
right?
Because one thing that we haven't gotten to, even though we're almost done with the show, is the darkroom.
Yeah.
Because you can take your stuff to Walgreens or whatever and get it developed, or if you want to put your more personal touches to it, you develop it yourself,
right?
Which you do.
Yeah, and and that's what I think. I haven't sold anything in as far as darkroom prints yet. Hopefully, we'll.
Is that because you're horrible at
some point? Yeah, I guess so.
You should probably rethink everything you're doing. No, I'm just kidding. But so yeah, you do your own darkroom stuff.
Yeah, and I think for the stuff that I've done in the darkroom, at least a lot more recently, because I'm experimenting a little bit more. I'm painting on my negatives to give it some kind of just painting on a border, or obviously when you're printing on a piece of paper in the darkroom, when you're enlarging it, that piece of paper is light sensitive.
Yeah.
So when you shine a light on it, the more light you shine, those parts turn, the darker they get, so the blacker they get. And what I was doing lately was when I was shooting the film onto the paper, when I was enlarging it, it shoots this light that projects the film onto the paper for a certain amount of time. And what I've been doing is taking a little piece of like a flashlight, rigged it up to shoot out a small portion of the light, and then taking that light and drawing around the picture or doing some stuff to darken up parts of the photo myself from this flashlight that you could do in Photoshop, but I'm doing it myself and then developing it. And it's just really, it's something that is never going to look the same. It's never, I mean, I could do it probably 100 times and never get it to look exactly the same. And I think for me, it's really interesting to do that and for it to work out. And I'm like, wow, I really love that. But if I did it again, you know, because I did it a couple times and it didn't come out the same. It came out fine. But there's that one time that you really get it right and you look at it and you're like, I'm a genius.
Yeah, it's like hand-blown glass. They never come out the same way because it's done by hand.
Now, I keep thinking of Ansel as a salesman. Ever since we had Anthony King over at Minuteman, Tony King over at Minuteman Press, talking about branding.
Salesman.
Well, no, I meant more of, because that's what, to me, that's what your art, that's what your photography, because if I see it, I want to buy it.
Sure.
And it's all about the presentation, and if you educated somehow got the point across, like I developed this from point A to point Z.
Sure.
I didn't go anywhere else. It was me. That adds value to that product, to me as a buyer. I'm like, man, that's so cool because that's something I want to tell people.
Right.
If they're looking at this photo, like, this isn't some photo. This is some photo Ansel Arnold did, and he did it from point A to point Z.
Right.
And you can kind of explain that. So when you're doing your photos in the darkroom, is it possible to add your signature to the paper? Like, say you can special order the print paper and have your kind of already your signature on it, or what way can you go out in the darkroom to really give it your personal signature? How to get your name Ansel Arnold on there?
I'm sure I can make a stencil or or something like that. I mean, I sign my prints after I'm.
So you sign them. You just get a.
Yeah, I sign them. You know, I mean, but I can definitely make. You know, I remember the first. I think it was last year, and I did some funny little contest things. I was just trying to get more people interested in my photo page and everything, and I said, okay, you know, we get up to this many likes, whatever, get people to like my page. I get up to this many likes, and I'll give away 3 photos, and these were darkroom prints too.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, you don't have to pay for anything. I'll give them to you. You just have to, you know. So I had 3 different questions I asked, you know, in a week, and they were just parts of, you know, my page, like where was this photo taken, yada yada yada, stuff like that. And people did those. I sent out the prints, and I made little cards with them in the darkroom. And I got stencils, and I put my name on it, and I printed it onto the paper, onto it was like a 4x6 card, and I printed this with you know, my photo, but my name stenciled into that photo, but it was a darkroom enlargement. And so I thought, I don't know if anyone noticed what I did there, but I thought it was pretty special.
Cool.
I thought it was pretty special.
It's also, you know, you almost want to label out everything you did, like what you shot it with, what chemicals, like kind of like I was telling you when you go to galleries, and just have that label and you put it on the back of the photo. You just kind of, you can tape it or whatever. And just so, because to me, when you see that, people ask those questions. They're like, oh, what does this mean? Right. And what, I don't understand, like what's going on here? Because a lot of people, even in those photo magazines, they see that long list of what equipment. They're like, what is that? What is F1, 2, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's this, and this, and this is what the person used, and people appreciate it more. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's called being enlightened. If people were more enlightened about photography,
because I think that's where film needs to
really
more. Focus on, is educating, because a lot of people today who have Rebel TIs or whatever don't understand pretty much 1/4 of what that camera's capable of.
Right. Sure.
So
absolutely,
you can keep talking. Sorry.
Oh, you know, no, I totally agree. But so there's, I think I'm gonna skip over a couple of the things that you know, that I had. This was kind of more about processing yourself and the chemicals and stuff like that. And it kind of leads into another part, is where do you learn this kind of stuff? You know, where can you go to? I mean, obviously, I don't know if you're writing down, whoever's listening is going to be writing down notes as we talk about this or whatnot. But a really good place, a couple of really good places I like to go, or one in particular on YouTube. There's a guy named Ted Forbes. He's a photographer in Dallas, and he works for the Dallas Museum of Fine Arts. Really interesting guy. He knows a lot about art. I mean, he works in an art museum. He knows a lot about photography, and he has this show on YouTube called The Art of Photography. And I mean, he has like a couple hundred videos up, and this has been going on for a few years now. And I mean, he has everything up from aperture, what does that mean? Shutter speed, ISO, shooting black and white, different kind of film, how to do your own darkroom enlargements. And he does videos of all these things. And then he has stuff of going over different famous, like one part where he's just going over different famous photographers and going through their work and telling you kind of why he thinks it's good, what they did for the photography world, and different things like that. There's some where he talks about old cameras and stuff, but it's a lot of stuff that a beginner can get a lot of use out of. And at the same time, an intermediate to an advanced photographer can go and learn and say, wow, I didn't know that, or I didn't know about that photographer. That's really interesting. And he has a lot of stuff on there, and I would absolutely
What was his name again?
Ted Forbes. And
Ted Forbes.
The channel on YouTube is called The Art of Photography. So I would absolutely, if you don't know anything about photography, if you do know something about photography and just want to learn more, I would absolutely recommend him. He's a teacher, as well, and I think it shows because he's really interesting to go and listen to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say personally, that's how I learned what ISO was.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the digital world, ISO was such a confusing thing to me. Because it didn't make any sense. Like, why would I increase the ISO? It makes everything worse.
Right.
And when you buy film, you basically buy the ISO, like 200, 100. Like,
Right.
the more expensive the film, the lower the ISO will be.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you buy it, because I was buying batches of film, I'd buy like 400 ISO. And I'm like, why is it cheaper? And that's okay. It kind of taught you when you did the dark room and learning about it. Even though I didn't really get it as involved as you did, that was the only way I could wrap my mind around the concept of what ISO was. Because in digital world, it's like, I don't get it. Why would I ever shoot anything above 200 or 400? Like, I would never do that.
Really?
I just wouldn't take photos because it's like, it would just be too crappy.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, and there's stuff, I don't buy anything above 400, and I push my film. I push it to 1600 at the most. I push it to 6400, and that didn't turn out very well the first time. But yeah, I mean, there's like a 3200. There's a couple 3200 speed films out there that Ilford makes one, and I don't like it. It doesn't.
Like that, it sucks.
I don't.
Screw it.
I don't.
It's just real
Why do they
grainy.
even? Why do they even
It's real
bother?
grainy.
It's really grainy, but it's not like the good kind of grain. It doesn't. This one guy at Camera Co-op, which I'll get into that the next one, was talking to me about grain, different kind of grain structure. I had no idea there was different kind of grain structures. But there's the stuff that you look at that looks really grainy at like ISO for 400, and then I think he was saying it's like an oval shaped grain, or not oval, but like an octagon shaped grain, to where it doesn't all line up, so it doesn't look like it's fine grain, so it appears like there's more grain. And then there's the stuff that's more circular, so it lines up easier, so it doesn't look like there's as much grain. And I don't particularly care for the second kind. As
It also
much.
depends on what you're shooting too. I would say.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. But
some things look cool with grain, and some things look horrible.
Nice.
So.
Almost dropped the F-bomb on us.
But do you want me? How much?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
We'll ride all the way to 4.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm the boss.
I'm the boss.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so one other place to learn, I would just, a photography book that I got when I started my class called Black and White Photography: A Basic Manual by Henry Hornstein. It's a good little manual to, I think it's probably $30-40 at the most. It's just really good. It teaches you about lighting, about all different kinds of stuff, about, it's focused on film, black and white photography, obviously, but it's a nice little thing to buy and read about. I would definitely suggest buying a book and reading about it. If you're really, really interested in film photography and you're more of an intermediate, I would definitely recommend The Negative by Ansel Adams. It's just, that book goes so far in depth that my head almost exploded. But that's a really good book on learning about exposure and how to properly expose your negatives. Some things are different because obviously the film that they were using in the 60s is completely different than the film they're using now. But I think overall it's a very good book to learn about the zone system and things like that. Then the last thing I wanted to go in was where to buy all this junk. B&Hphotovideo.com is always a good place to go to buy stuff. I personally only purchase my film there and my chemicals and some chemicals. Film there that I found is the cheapest at B&H out of any other. I don't really shop at Adorama, so maybe it's cheaper or as cheap at Adorama if you like to shop there. But I found that B&H has the cheapest film around. Freestylephoto.biz, B-I-Z. You can get film, chemicals, darkroom equipment, darkroom processing equipment, enlarging paper, inkjet paper. You have a lot of options through Freestyle Photo. And a couple of the good things if you're just getting into photography, they have a few good beginner style things for black and white. They have the Arista brand of film, chemicals, and some equipment is only sold through Freestyle Photo. And I've never shot the Arista brand film. I'm sure it's just as good as any other film. I've just never cared to shoot it. I've used some of the Arista chemicals, and they have been almost, basically what I buy otherwise. And I haven't bought, actually no, I did buy some of the darkroom equipment from there, some of like the film processing equipment. I prefer to buy the steel film reels and the steel film tanks because I think it saves money in the long run. If you're just starting out, you might want to go with the plastic ones because it's just easier. If you're just starting out and you want one, I have one that I'll give you if you email me. So,
I remember those plastic ones were hard to roll the film on because they would bind, and the steel ones are just not a web, but it just goes around and it's stable, and you didn't have to click it or manipulate it.
I only use the steel ones. The only problem I'm finding is I kink it way too much, and I need to just get my rhythm down. I need to practice a little bit more because I kink it all the time.
And that's another thing, when you're putting film on one of those reels, you're doing it in the dark, and you're just feeling around. Is this right? And if the film touches, one part of the film touches another, like you say, it creates this black spot on there. So it's like it is an art form. It definitely teaches you a lot.
Yeah, it's a learning process. So. But Freestyle Photo, if you're looking for cheap film, cheap chemicals to process yourself, I would absolutely go there. Arista film is cheaper, but all the other films like Kodak, Ilford, all those films, those are probably the most like 75 cents to $1 more expensive than B&H. But the Arista brand stuff is the cheapest, which you can't buy at B&H. For cameras, and you can also buy film there, but, unless you're already ordering a camera from KEH, I would not, there's no reason to just buy film from there to me. But from KEH, tons of different cameras, tons of different parts of cameras. I mean, they just go on their website, go on KEH.com, and they just have a giant list of stuff to buy from. I mean, they have, they have your lenses, they have your bodies, and they have your lens accessories like shades, hoods, caps, wires, caps, they have screens. I mean, they have everything if you go to KEH and you're interested in a film camera or digital camera, either way. It's mostly used equipment on there, but I think they're fairly cheap and they're really good. I've kind of had some trouble with something that I bought from there recently, and they've been more than helpful, and they I had some issues, and they gave me a next step up quality piece of equipment. The same thing, but it was the next step up in quality, and they 2-dayed it for me at no charge. So I really, I had some trouble with their stuff, but I really like them.
We're going to make a list of all these things you mentioned for our listeners for the archives.
Absolutely.
because that'd be important. Because I'm already at those websites, and there's some pretty dang cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like Freestyle Photo Biz. Like, this is nuts.
There's so much on Freestyle Photo.
So,
and then the last one, if you want to go local, if you just want to learn about and talk to people, talk to really nice people who know what they're talking about as well, go to Camera Co-op. It's off of
it's on Shepherd and Durham.
Yeah, it's off the 10.
I've been there. Yeah, I used to live right down the street from there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That place is cool.
That place is really cool, and the people there know about everything there is to know about photography, and you just go in there and talk to them, and they will.
Oh yeah, like
they will show you around
for the little things too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this spring is broken.
Yeah.
On your battery pack, or they'll be like, oh, here you go, and I'm like, oh, okay.
They're pretty awesome there.
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
Cool. Well, we gotta go. It is 4:01, and trmorephotos.com. You have been such a good little boy.
Next week I will get revenge.
I know. It's gonna
next
be
week
awful.
is coming, buddy. So
be
I'm getting geared up.
Hey, Tom, what's going on next week? Do we have a guest?
We have Mr. Jack Dillinger, who is a professional photographer, and he shoots
fantastic
weddings, and he also shoots graduation shots and just a lot of stuff. So it'll be interesting to have him in here. Really nice guy.
Well, because we're probably sending him this episode just to warm him up. Because Ansel's pretty much the only guy that's really professional here. Let's be real.
That's right. Let's be real. Scum.
Or if anything, informative. So, Ansel, we always appreciate your input. Always appreciate you coming here.
It's
I know
been
I
an
do.
Absolute joy.
But I will not cry you a river, like Dick. I'm not gonna cry you a river.
I'll be really sad about it. You'll be back. Hopefully, we'll update the listeners when you'll be back.
Absolutely.
And especially call in, man. If you're around 3 o'clock, I guess it'd be different in Chicago, wouldn't it? Do they have a different time zone?
No, they're
same time zone.
Central.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Central time.
I don't know. I think I've been to Chicago like once.
I've never been to Chicago, but I will be soon.
That's pretty cool, man. You're gonna get some. Oh, your photos you're gonna get are great.
Ansel
Arnold Photography on Facebook. Look him up. And if you want to buy any of his prints, all you got to do is ask him. And he's doing a special rate at 0% off if you mention Aperture shutter speed.
Starting at $5,000.
Yeah, starting at $5,000. It's an increase in price if you mention Aperture shutter speed.
That's it.
Yeah, but yeah, so trmorephotos.com. We'll see you next week at 3 p.m. Ansel, good luck, and
thanks.
I look forward to seeing your photos.
Thanks for everything, guys. Hopefully I'll be back before I leave for Chicago. But if not, it's been awesome.
That's the way it's going to be. So we'll see y'all later. See you next week. Make sure to check our archives out on SoundCloud and YouTube.
Hey everyone, this is Tina, your host from Retro Saturdays. I wanted to invite you to visit the Lone Star Studios here in downtown Conroe, Texas. We're all volunteers here, and we need your help in serving the Montgomery County area. Radio media is a fun field to be in. Lone Star Internet Radio serves Montgomery County with news, current events, local programming, and of course, music. If you are interested in volunteering and sharing your talents in media, go to irlonestar.com and let us hear from you. Lone Star Internet Radio, serving Montgomery County from the heart of downtown Conroe.